Chapter 14. The Children of Ibrahim. They began taking turns reading the Torah, until they started getting sleepy. "Please!" An elderly man walked down towards them. "Don't be alarmed." Hearing the voice, everyone jumped up and looked at Wanyanyekevu. Wanyanyekevu smiled. "He can't be a threat, I didn't see anything," Jonathan said. "Now, he tells us, it has to be a threat." They watched the old man as he descended from the stairs. "No, I am not a threat," said the old man. "I had to see if you were, before I approached. I was uncertain about that one when he started stabbing into the air with the forks," pointing at Jonathan. "Until you started reading the Torah. We also read it, but it has us confused at times." Jonathan shook his head. "Oh hell, not another one with his old ass. Shit. He's the one that snuck up on us, and asking us if we're a threat." The old man continued. "No disrespect, young man. We saw you coming to town after you touched the froth." The man pointed to some cameras hidden throughout the place. "These are 16K infrared cameras, and they are placed throughout the city. We thought you would just pass on through, but when you came to this place, we worried for a bit. Anakataas nor Wakatilians are never seen together, and we were baffled." Joam asked. "Froth? Hold up. We?" The old man walked down the steps. "The froth is the rundown dome that covers the city, and yes, we." Many stayed after the relocation, and as time passed, many of their children and their children's children left. It was just a handful of us for a while, but now it's just my children and myself. Come, let me introduce you to the rest. He takes them upstairs to the elevators. Wanyanyekevu had never been on an elevator and had never been so high before. The elevators seemed to drop a bit before moving upward, creating butterflies in his stomach. In his mind, he counts the floors and watches through the clear glass elevator doors. Jonathan looked at the old man pointing to Wanyanyekevu. "He ain't been nowhere before," the old man said with a smile. "Neither have I." Raising his eyebrows, Jonathan said, "You have never left the city at all?" The old man shook his head and simply replied, "No, I was born and raised right here in this city, my father and mother, and their mothers and fathers. I will die here as well." Wanyanyekevu interrupts them. "How high does this machine go up?" The old man laughs. 3,164 stories, but we share the entire 200th floor, the rest is empty." Wanyanyekevu turns around, slowly counting the numbers on the elevator window. 165, 166. Joam grabs Wanyanyekevu by the shoulders, pointing to the horizon. "Don't think about the height. Look out at the beautiful sunset, the purple and orange skies, just beautiful. Looking beyond the city and the landscape." "Yeah." Wanyanyekevu starts to speak when a bell rings, and he starts looking around. Joam laughs. "See, we're here." They exited the elevators and entered a large white room. At the end of the room were 3 hallways, one to the right, one to the left, and one directly ahead of them. Standing there in amazement in the center of the room with all smiles stood 6 people. "This is we?" said Jonathan with great enthusiasm as he kept staring at one of the women standing there. Joam and Wanyanyekevu looked at each other and raised their eyebrows as he continued. "How in the—" Jonathan caught himself before he cussed, but he continued. "How did you manage to live here all these years with just a handful of y'all?" Joam turned to Jonathan. "How did we?" Jonathan just smiled. Joam whispered to Wanyanyekevu. "This boy is acting strange." Wanyanyekevu saw the young lady Jonathan kept staring at. "Well, she is beautiful." The old man walked out in front of them. "These are my children," pointing to each one. "This is Alpha Primate-3, Alpha Primate-4, Alpha Primate-5, Alpha Primate-6, Alpha Primate-7, and the little man is Alpha Prime 16-6, and I'm Alpha Primate-1. Jonathan snapped out of it and said, "Wait. What? Alpha Prime?" Joam and Wanyanyekevu looked at him. "What?" Jonathan said as he continued. "Have you ever heard of someone named Alpha Prime?" Waninyekava said. Have you ever heard of someone named Waninyekavu? Jonathan said. But they sound like nomenclatures to me. I don't care what you say. Shaking his head with a smile, Jome said. Please forgive the rudeness again. He punched Jonathan in the shoulder. My name is Jome, this is my little brother Jonathan, and this is our friend Waninyekavu. Jonathan shook his head. But we call him Way. Waninyekavu smiled as he noticed Jome had finally pronounced his name right. Jonathan walked toward Alpha Primate 7. Hi, I am John. Jome grabbed him by his collar and whispered in his ear. Bring your ass back here and act civilized. The youngest, Alpha Prime 16-6 said to them. Why are you not Alpha or Beta or Pi? Excuse the little man, he's always filled with questions. The old man, Alpha Primate 1, said, grabbing Alpha Prime 16-6 by the hand. He's been with us since his mother died a few years back. Please, there are many questions for all of us to ask. Let's get some rest and talk in the morning. Walking toward the edge of the large room. Do you prefer separate rooms or one room for all of you? Asked Alpha Primate 1. Please, one room for us all. We do not want to put you out, said Waninyekavu. Alpha Primate 1 held up his arms. We have the entire floor, in fact, the entire building. There's no way you could, as you say, put us out. They all laughed. Entering an enormous room. There's nothing here, said Jonathan. Please stand within this white square, said Alpha Primate 1 as he pointed down toward the square directly in front of the door's entrance. He continued as he started pressing buttons. In this room, we have the jungle. Within a second, the entire room looked exactly like the jungle. He continued pressing the buttons as the scenery changed. Desert, New York, Miami, the Wild West, the South. Waninyekava stopped him. That's it, the South. The view reminded him of home. Walking outside the square, he touched the trees and bushes, then turned around with a smile toward Jome and Jonathan. If it's okay with you two, and if y'all don't mind me enjoying a little taste of home, he said, thinking, as he took a deep breath. It's been a while, I guess I'm homesick. No problem, said Jome. We need to look after the horses before we call it a night, though. Please, by all means, please bring them up, said Alpha Primate 1. Waninyekavu had a funny feeling in his stomach. Jonathan laughed at Waninyekavu, seeing that he wanted nothing to do with that elevator again. I'll go, my friend. Waninyekavu, raising his eyebrows, whispered. My friend, who is he? As he looked at Jome, they both smiled. Alpha Primate 3 and Alpha Primate 4 simultaneously shouted. We will go help you. Alpha Primate 1 smiled. They haven't seen any animals other than the ones we created within here. Alpha Primate 4, eager to retrieve the horses, almost knocked down Jome, running toward the elevator and pushed the button. Alpha Primate 3 said to Alpha Primate 4. Be careful, you almost knocked him over. He looked at Jome. So sorry, she really loves horses. Is it all right? Jonathan quickly replied. Yeah, of course, it's okay. Standing in the elevator, Alpha Prime 8-4 looked at Jome. I'm sorry. As she demanded to Jonathan. Let's go. As the elevator closed, Alpha Prime 8-6 asked Jome and Waninyekavu. Do you want a tent or a cabin? I can even place a castle in here. Handing Jome a remote. This is a real-time emulator. Set the perimeters and time here, or you can set it to dissolve or even switch. The conversation was too much for Waninyekavu as Jome started talking about what Waninyekavu calls tech talk. Waninyekavu walked toward Alpha Primate 1, Alpha Primate 5, and little Alpha Prime 16-6. We will be out of your hair first thing in the morning. I just wanted to thank you for the hospitality. Alpha Primate 1 said. No problem, but I would like to ask a favor of you. Waninyekava said. Sure, what is it? Alpha Primate 1 said. Take my children with you. Shocked, Waninyekava said. Why? I thought you were happy here. Alpha Primate 1 replied. I'm 87 years old, and I'm just too old, And they need to live their life as normal as it can get for them. This is not a life to live. I had to get old to realize why my great-grandfather refused to join the others when they left. My children are mentally slow by at least 10 years, or how should I put it? They are younger than they are. They are behind in everything. I don't have long, and I want them to get away from here and have a normal life, but with someone safe and who won't take advantage of them. Wanyanyekevu scratched his head. I'm heading west to Arizona, and Kompyutans are not welcome, or shall I say, not expected to live that way. It's dangerous, and I don't see how they can make it with me or anyone else at that. Alpha Primate -1 replied. I can change their clothes to be as close to Wakatilian as possible, and you can give them names. We have all kinds of self-defense instruments, applications, and equipment. All you need to say is that they are mentally ill children. Wanyanyekevu interrupted. They are not really mentally ill, are they? I cannot go around lying, my friend. Alpha Primate -1 interrupted Wanyanyekevu. Wanyanyekevu, you will not be lying, for in the real world, when it comes to reasoning, problem-solving, decision-making, and their cognitive skills, they are lacking outside these walls. They would make it if the world were a computer. We both know that's not so. That's a mental disability to me, because their entire world has been virtual. Plus I'm dying and need your help to give my children a real life. Grabbing Wanyanyekevu by the shoulder. I have a good feeling about you, my friend. Smiling, Wanyanyekevu said. In that case, it would be my pleasure. But now I need to ask you for a favor. Alpha Primate -1 replied. Sure, how can I help you? Wanyanyekevu said in a reassuring voice. You said you have Taurus. I need one for everyone. Let's say 9 smaller ones, so we don't have to keep passing mine around. Alpha Primate -1 smiled out of relief. That's all. Not even a problem. After everyone finally settled in for the night, Wanyanyekevu thought about the old man's request. He did not speak to Jom or Jonathan about it, but prayed to Sabaoth for hours before he fell asleep. Confused and worried about the situation, yet still hundreds of miles from his destination now, he's no longer alone but has 8 additional people, and neither one is Wakatilian. Here he is, with the people his people are trying to avoid. What to name these people? Can they defend themselves? What will the Wakatilian nation think of them? Questions just flowed through Wanyanyekevu's head as he finally fell asleep. He hears a loud voice. Behold your most trustworthy warriors, who shall stand by your side and never forsake you, your army, your warriors of Sabaoth. Wanyanyekevu saw at least 50 Wakatilian warriors dressed in war paint and ready for battle. Their names were called out as the voice introduced them. Jom, War Chief, Jonathan and Elisha, Intelligence and Tech Support Warriors. Not noticing at first, he looked again. Elisha was Alpha Primate -6. Wanyanyekevu smiled. The voice continued. Elijah, a skilled scout. It was Alpha Primate -3. The names and faces continued. Grace, Mercy, and Joy, medical, surveillance warriors, and great hunters. It was the Alpha Prime daughters. The last names were called, and little Alpha Prime 18-6 stood. Daniel, the prophet of Sabaoth, and Obey, a great warrior of Sabaoth. Wanyanyekevu said. Obey? I have never seen his face before. The voice said. You will very soon. Wanyanyekevu said to himself as he woke from sleep, and he still heard the voice as clear as when he was asleep. The voice was of Mletsi, the messenger of Sabaoth. There will be 12, but for now, you must go to Kabbalah Lake. Everyone was still asleep in the digital cabin that Jonathan had made for them. Walking outside to the hologram of Louisiana, Wanyanyekevu said to himself, It looks just like home, but where are the mosquitoes? Where's the smell of the morning dew? Where's the early morning cool breeze? As he walked around for a minute and observed the rest of the scenery. It's beautiful, but this is just an illusion of the truth. Grabbing his pen and pad, he wrote, Can you explain? To all the scientists, can you explain? Tell me how this world came to be? Telling me about this Big Bang theory. That's silly, saying we all came from apes that evolved into man. You talk like a fool, no matter how many years you went to school. Some things you have done, I totally disagree. I stand here, right here, now with the one, the Son. And he is with me. A copy of the original. Not bad, if I say so myself. Took centuries to duplicate, still didn't get it right. Then you say that you don't believe in God. Can you explain? To this I do agree. You have gone astray. You are trying to change the planet's destiny. Cloning of people and animals, you'll have your day. Is it not right? Can you explain? Chemical warfare to help win wars, and destroys life. While you fight, you want to explain life. Tell us how to live a long life, just to destroy life. Can you explain? What kind of fool are you? A lot of things you're always trying to explain. Explain this. You said life was created by a single cell. If that's the case, tell me, who gave life to that cell? Can you explain? How long will it take for you to believe? When you reach that place called hell? See the face of your Maker, when it's too late. Yes, you might be able to predict the weather. But you're not always right. You say it's going to be sunny today, but look outside. Do you see the rain? Can you explain? Do you feel the pain? The wrath of the Almighty. I think you're the one going insane. Trying to explain. Exiting the room into a hallway, he noticed Alpha Primate -1 and all his children were there dressed like Wakatilians. Wanyanyekova laughed for a bit, then smiled as he fixed their clothing. Now you look like Wakatilians. Then he told them all to stand in a line by their ages. Just then, Jom and Jonathan walked in on them. Wanyanyekovu, you ready to go? Jom said. Wanyanyekova held up a finger. One moment please, since we all are here, please let's bow our head in prayer. Everyone stopped and bowed their head as Wanyanyekova smiled again, thought about his dream, and began praying. Sabaoth, please hear a prayer from your humble servant. We are here to take upon a journey in your holy and blessed name. Here we stand, some confused and unlearned, but we know we shall stand through faith in you. We trust in Shika, whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. Here stands. Walking toward Alpha Prime, 8-1, and his children, he took out a small bottle of oil that he had blessed and placed some on his hands and rubbed them together. He put his hand on Alpha Primate -3's forehead. Alpha Primate -3, now your name is Elijah. He continued to each one of the children of Alpha Primate -1. Alpha Primate -4, your name is now Grace. Alpha Primate -5, your name is now Mercy. Alpha Primate -6, your name is now Alicia. Alpha Primate -7, your name is now Joy. Smiling from ear to ear, little Alpha Prime 16-6 said, My turn! Wanyanyekovu smiled back at Alpha Prime 16-6. Yes, Alpha Prime 18-6, your name is now Daniel, not only a warrior, you shall be a prophet for the Most High. Wanyanyekovu then turns to Alpha Primate -1, for this is the day you have been waiting for so long to see, and Sabaoth has seen your heart, and he is pleased to take your children because now they are his, and they shall be great in his name. He grabbed his bottle of oil and blessed Alpha Primate -1. Alpha Primate -1, from this moment forward, you shall be called Ibrahim. He walked toward the two brothers and asked Jom to pour the oil on his hands. Will you do me the honor? As he looked into Jom's eyes and smiled. Jom poured the oil into his hands. He then placed each hand on the brothers. Warriors and leaders for Sabaoth. He concluded his prayer as he hugged Daniel. In your holy name, Amen. Looking at everyone, he said, You finish a prayer by saying Amen or Selah. And everyone said, Amen. Jom and Jonathan were in a bit of shock as they pulled Wanyanyekovu to the side. Jom said, These people can't fight. They're like children. They will die or get us killed at the first sight of trouble. Wanyanyekovu smiled and said to Jom, These children, as you call them, will be great and powerful warriors of the Almighty, alongside you two in battle. Jom had a puzzled look on his face at what Wanyanyekovu had just said. Jonathan was mad and said out loud, Shit! I mean damn hell! Shaking his head, he said, Look! Wanyanyekavu and Jom looked toward Jonathan. What? Holding up his middle finger and smiling, Jonathan continued. Fuck you. No, really. Listen, Alpha Primate Dash, Alicia, whatever your damn name is. I'm glad you guys changed your names because I wasn't going to call you 16-9 or whatever y'all names were, and who says dash anyways? Couldn't you have a point instead? You know, point 3, but no, you'll got a damn dash. Wanyanyekova looked at Jonathan and asked, Have I not shown you I have a gift? You too shall receive a gift, and it will be from Sabaoth. Trust me when I say he has blessed our union, and it will serve a great purpose. Jonathan calmed down, for he did trust Wanyanyekavu, and deep down, he wanted to know Sabaoth. Jonathan then pointed at Alicia. Okay, I will hang with him. We stayed up pretty late last night, and we talked about some of the technology they had here. We can take some along with us. Plus maybe he knows what to do with some of the other stuff we got off of our dead friends. Joan went back over to Alicia and asked about some of the instruments and equipment. But he held the bag up. I'm way ahead of you. Plus a few extras. Joan and Wanyanyekova walked off to discuss details while Jonathan and Alicia went over what to bring along with them. After their lengthy discussion, Joan and Wanyanyekova joined the rest and gathered their belongings and personal items. They finally organized their things, placed them on the horses, and were ready to enter the elevator. Mercy pushed the button, and the doors opened. I'll hold your hands so you won't be afraid, said Grace to Wanyanyekova. Jonathan looked at Joy and nervously said, I just want to hold your hands. Joy smiled. Sure. Ibrahim walked up to Wanyanyekova with tears in his eyes, hugged him, and whispered in his ear. I never knew of a God until now. The very first time I have ever asked God for anything was a few weeks back, and I asked him to bring a man of God to come to take my children to give them a life with him. He has given me just that through you, thank you. After the goodbyes, hugs, kisses, and crying, they all headed down the elevator. Once outside, everyone got on a horse. Where's my horse? Said Daniel. Wanyanyekova said. You'll ride with me, little man. Wanyanyekova then turned to Jonathan. See, there was a reason why we had these extra horses. Now, we need to go to Caballo Lake? Pulling out one of his new toys, Jonathan said. Caballo Lake is due north. However, Tucson is west, Wanyanyekova said. I was told we need to go there first. Joan asked. Told? Told by whom? Wanyanyekova said. I will explain later. Jonathan shook his head. Everything will always be explained later with this man. They headed north. Wanyanyekova and Joan led the group, followed in pairs by Mercy and Joy, then Elijah and Grace and Jonathan and Alicia, who carried the rear. Jonathan and Alicia were doing more talking about technology than anything else along the way. Joan had never seen his brother talk to anyone so much other than himself, as he looked back at his brother. He smiled, turning to Wanyanyekova. I've never seen Jonathan so serious with anyone before besides me. Wanyanyekova replied. He found himself a little brother, Joan said. I guess so. 3 hours into their journey, they heard a large and loud explosion that shook the ground behind them. Turning around, the children started crying, for they could see that their father had destroyed the entire city, as they saw buildings falling from the skies. Standing there while the children of Ibrahim cried, Wanyanyekova, Joan, and Jonathan didn't say a word until they were ready to move on. They had traveled for miles before anyone said anything. He always said that he never wanted us to live like them, said Grace. He even told me one time you can camouflage a lie, but it will always be a lie, and he wanted us to see what the truth was. They continued to talk amongst themselves before Jonathan realized they hadn't eaten all day. Less than a mile from Caballo Lake, Jonathan complained. We have been traveling all day now, and haven't eaten a thing. Wanyanyekovo's mind wasn't on what Jonathan had said, for he started thinking about home. I don't have any idea why people stay in such a place. Back home, there's plenty of trees, grass, rivers, and lakes, and there's always something you can eat pretty much by walking down a trail. You'll see something to eat. You don't always have. Jonathan interrupted him. Fuck that shit, man. I'm so fucking hungry now, right now. There's always wild rabbits or snakes in these parts, if nothing else. Joam stopped his horse and pointed to the north. Just under a mile is Kabbalah Lake. If it hasn't dried up, we can stop there and rest a bit, but your ass needs to stop being a rude, crying-ass little bitch. What happens to that Jonathan I saw back at Las Cruces? I want him. Pointing at Jonathan, Joam continued. Not this asshole. Wanyanyekova smiled at Joam as the rest looked at them with confusion. Jonathan doesn't bother me. I see a great heart in his stupidity. Already embarrassed by his brother, Jonathan got offended by what Wanyanyekova had said. My brother can call me stupid, but I don't know you well enough for you to be calling me stupid motherfucker. Wanyanyekova climbed off his horse and winked his eye at Joam. If it walks like a duck, quack like a duck, it must be what? A duck. You talk stupid with your foul mouth and walk around looking stupid, so you must be what? Stupid. Now furious at Wanyanyekova, Jonathan jumps off his horse, charges at him with all his might, and throws a punch. Wanyanyekova dodged his punch, and Jonathan fell to the ground. Wanyanyekova taunted him. Never use all of your body weight to punch someone, and remember that there is something called gravity. Jumping up, Jonathan brushed himself and ran at Wanyanyekova. Wanyanyekova took one step to the right and pushed Jonathan lightly, and he fell flat on his face. Your center of gravity is off. Jonathan grabs a stick lying on the ground. Shoulders should never tell a person when or where you are going to attack, Wanyanyekova said. Jonathan was about to swing. Right, now left, right. Wanyanyekova started calling out which side he would attack from, and Jonathan stopped and switched, but he was calling it out as he was about to attack. Jonathan threw the stick down. I'm not stupid, asshole. Wanyanyekova laughs. No, you're dumb. They all laugh. Joam then took Jonathan by the shoulders. Grow up, little brother is all I'm asking. We must take care of our new family, and you're always complaining. Stop it. Pointing at Ibrahim's children. No, Ibrahim's family depends on us to take them somewhere safe. We have a responsibility to take care of them, like I have a responsibility to take care of you. Wanyanyekova smiled and excused himself. You guys gone ahead, I'll meet you at the lake. I will do the hunting this time. Why don't y'all finally go through the rest of the loot we got off the dead men and see what we can use, cause that B890 was something else. How do the snakes taste out here? I'm still tired of rabbit. Walking toward the field, he continued. By the way, let's not use that cube thing. Let's take advantage of the lake and the cool wind that's out tonight. Joam pointed out to Wanyanyekova by shouting. Kabbalah Lake is a lake. Remember, we have to be extra careful now because animals need water too. We have snakes, scorpions, and things like that can kill us while sleeping. Digging through the bags, he continued, but Wanyanyekova was long gone. Oh, I see those men have air mattresses. We'll use these tonight. Turning and yelling at Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan, charge the B890 up when we get there. Ain't no telling if we'll need it again. Once they arrived at the lake, Elijah, the eldest son of Ibrahim, approached Joam. We are not totally useless. Let us help. And we have plenty of supplies ourselves. Apologetically, Joam said. No, I'm sorry, that is not what it is. We're just so used to being the three of us. Please join in as needed. As a matter of fact, prep these air mattresses in a circle, 3 in the middle for your sisters and little Daniel, and leave the rest for us, outside of them. Wanyanyekova travels a few yards and sees a wolf. Not knowing if it was Mletsi or not, he hesitantly says, Mletsi? The wolf looked at him and ran away. This is coyote territory, Wanyanyekova said as he turned around, and there was Mletsi. A visitor shall come to see you soon, don't be afraid, for he is a servant of Sabaoth, just as you are, not only a servant but a prophet, therefore respect him, for Mshika taught him. Scratching the tiny hairs he was growing on his face, Wanyanyekova said, I'm not afraid of no man, why would I be afraid? Wanyanyekova blinked, and Letzi smiled and then disappeared, but he still heard his voice. I prepared a feast for you near the southernmost part of the lake. You'll see it by the big rocks. One Inyekova walks to the edge of the lake, and there, before his eyes, are 4 large baskets. He looked inside of them, and indeed it was a feast. He carefully grabs the baskets and meets up with the rest of his party. Where in the hell did you get that shit from? Jones said in excitement. You need to be the only one hunting from now on. One Inyekova laughs. The ancient Fariji, messenger of Sabaoth, Letzi. How many air mattresses do we have? Asked one Inyekovu, looking at Joan. I'll tell you all about Mletzi while we eat. Still, slightly frustrated, he hears someone say, 8. It was Jonathan sarcastically speaking. One Inyekova laughed. Lie them down on the ground, and let's start blowing them up, we'll need all of them. Jonathan ran, grabbed one from the circle. Who's dumb now? Seriously, blow them up. You still in ancient times, I see. Grabbing a small stainless steel square frame, he pushed a black button, and a twin-sized mattress that resembled a sleeping bag was floating 3 feet above the ground. One Inyekova started to speak, but Jonathan said, We know! We know! Sabaoth is able. Jonathan grabs another one, pointing to the buttons. These colors represent the size you want. Black is twin, blue is full, pink is queen, and red is king size. Then he flipped it over. This is for a guess, you might say super size. One Inyekova took the device. Black is super size, pushing the black button. No! No, black is twin, super size is the only button on the bottom. Jones said, but it was too late. One Inyekova had released the device, and a bed appeared. He laughed. Goodness! Joan took the first mattress and inflated it, then gave one to the rest. Here you go, pick the size you want for you, and little Daniel can share one. They chose the super-sized mattresses that one Inyekova had accidentally inflated as their table. They surrounded it and ate. The children of Ibrahim looked at each other with a puzzled look on their faces, for they didn't see anything familiar in the baskets, and the eldest brother spoke up. The only thing we recognize is the silverware. What is this? Jonathan jumped up. What is it? It's authentic food, not that paste shit you guys serve. Filling up his plate as he called out the meal. You got your mashed potatoes with gravy sauce. Licking his fingers from the sauce that dripped onto his fingers as he continued. You got roasted chicken with potatoes, carrots, and peas and corn on the cob with butter. Oh boy. I haven't seen or tasted a meal like this since I was. Joan started to speak, but tears rushed from his eyes. This is, taking a deep breath. This is our last meal as a family, and it tastes just like our mother's cooking. Jonathan couldn't remember, but he started crying as well. Joan stopped crying, but the tears continued to flow from his eyes. There's no way, I can't see any possible way that you could have gotten a meal like this and in the middle of the desert? One Inyekova was speechless at first, for he did not know that the meal was crucial to the brothers. I didn't know that, but whatever Sabaoth has for us, we must do. You were just strangers to me, Anakataas, at that, and me being a lone Wakatilian. It reminds me of a prophet in Acts. Joan interrupted. What's Acts? A city? One Inyekova said. No, it's a book in the Torah. Wiping the tears from his eyes. Anyways, this book is about a man named Saul, who is fighting a battle between his brothers, about who is righteous and who is not because of how they were born. Back then, it was between Jews and Gentiles. Now it's us. I am convinced. We are to journey together. We are brothers and sisters. We are truly a family in Sabaoth. Having a lump in his throat, he too blows out a hard breath, looks at everyone, and briefly explains to them about Yael, Mletzi, and Shika and the many things that have been happening to them. How they met were not a mere coincidence. He briefly explained the Torah and quickly said, while looking at Joan and Jonathan, you know, we got to start reading the Torah all over again, because of our new family. Elijah insisted they didn't, but Joan and Jonathan looked at him. No, let's start from the beginning.